I know as seeing all the hard work that you've done, and everywhere that you touch, you always produce success. So we're grateful for you taking on strategic enrollment management. The first time in what 10, 12 years we've actually had an increase. So it's really wonderful whenever you touch a project. And
I wish
nicely
it were.
done.
I
Nice
wish
to
all
see
that
you.
were true, but thank
Yeah.
you.
So let me start get the presentation going, and let me see. I'm going to do this. Yeah, I can share that one. So, and let's get this one going. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank the Alumni Association, the foundation, for recognizing me as a distinguished alumni this year. It is such an honor, and I know there are so many people that are very capable, and again, I'm very humbled to being selected this year. So when we started thinking about a talk, I wanted to think about something about my life and what I've been able to do to be successful. And I dropped on a subject of forks in the road. I think this is appropriate in the sense that I think this has made me a better person every time that I came across one of those forks in the road. So I looked for a lot of quotes and I really didn't find anything, but I said, why not just take something that makes sense to me, something that's a guiding principle for me. And I've talked to a couple of people that have known me for many years, and they say, yes, that is you. When you have that fork in the road, align it with your long-term goals. And then afterwards, start down that path. But I think the one thing that's been able to make me successful is that I never stopped and looked back on that, should I've gone to that fork in the road. The decision was made. I made it based on all the facts that I had, and that's where I'm at. A little bit about myself. So some of you know about me and some of you don't. So I was born to Gilbert and Christine Baca out of Santa Fe. I was one of 6. I was in the middle. I attended Santa Fe Public School. And the ripe young age of 17, I graduated from high school. And then I started my life from that point on. You see some of the photos there. My dad was ended up retiring as a 1-star, a Ranger. He was very proud of being a Ranger. My sister's on the far right-hand side. She's a dental hygienist. My youngest sister has a bachelor, master. She's a homemaker now. She's written a book, and she's also attended Cambridge. My sister worked for the Department of Health as an admin for the secretary. My eldest brother on the left-hand side, he works in Las Vegas. He's an entertainer. And then my middle brother he was a coach, a teacher. He also attended West Point. And then you get to see me there. But I love playing sports. I love the competitive nature of sports and the collegiality that it brings. So how did NMHU help me? Well, I have 3 degrees from Highlands, an associate's degree in electronic engineering, and that really helped me learn about PCs and computers right at the time when this wonderful little device, a personal computer, started going into people's homes and businesses where you used to have these very big mainframes. I achieved my bachelor's degree in management information systems and my MBA in management. By Highlands University, we had a grant to train Native Americans on Microsoft products. And so I went to a boot camp and I was able to attain a Microsoft certified systems engineer, also a trainer. And I was one of 100 within the world that was selected for a special exam. It was called the system administrator, and I was able to achieve that. I've sat on several boards, from technology boards to a founding member of Innovate Educate, and also I've been on Northern New Mexico Citizens Advisory Board. I've also served on Council of University Presidents, and recently I just got appointed to the Alta Vista Regional Hospital. So thank you, my good friend, Ms. Law, Dr. Lam, in teaching me about the healthcare system. My journey, my personal journey, I've been married to my lovely wife, Sylvia. You can see those photos and you can see, yeah, I had a lot of hair then and such a wonderful, beautiful and intelligent bride. Our son, Jonathan, is the love of our life, and our Windsor, she passed away several years ago. And then the one that's Enya, that's in my life right now, she's my number one shadow. So I am very blessed to have such a wonderful wife and son. And when you look back at some of these photos, it's amazing how life has been good to me. My journey at NMHU, yeah, there's a photo of me thanks to Fred Bile. I got recruited and played for a couple of years here. They had just won the it was not RMAC, it was another, they were part of a different conference at that point, but they had just won it the year before. So I came from Santa Fe High and I thought, hey, this is a wonderful experience for me to try this college life. One thing I learned is I needed about another 3 inches and I needed about another 30 pounds because some of those individuals are linemen and the game is very, very fast and they hit really hard. So I was able to continue my love of the game for several years. ROTC versus West Point. They had just started the ROTC program here at Highlands University. And at the same time, I was also getting recruited to West Point. My elder brother, who I showed you, he had attended West Point and he was in his second year there. And he had been playing football and they knew that I played football. So they wanted me to go there as well. I was nominated by former Congressman, Governor and Ambassador Bill Richardson. But at that point, that was one of the first forks in the road that I had to take a look at. I had always been underneath the shadow of my brother playing sports. And at this particular stage in my life, I said, I think I'm going to just stay here. I'm going to stay here at Highlands and I'm going to pursue becoming an officer under the ROTC program. Private sector or public sector. After I got my first degree, I decided to go work in Santa Fe at the private side. And I worked a little bit, but it just wasn't something for me at that time in my life. So I decided to return back to public sector. But ROTC, some of you look at some of the albums that we have around the campus. Sometimes some people will see and see me there. I was elevated to the commander of the ROTC group there. You see the left-hand photo. I was able to got selected to go to airborne school. So yes, I jumped out of a perfectly good functioning airplane, and that was an experience. We were able to get quite a few students to the program before it shut down, and quite a few of them were able to fulfill their career in the Army. In the back of over my right shoulder is Captain Socha, who was our first commander. And then that bottom picture on the right was me in basic training. That's when I learned to grow up at that time. How did NMHU help me? Well, it really gave me my first opportunity as a long-term employment. I started off as a PC repair and data communications. I was really lucky that administrators or my bosses always entrusted in me and building out very complex systems. So I was able to install the first local area network on campus. We pulled our own fiber, we did our own terminations. Then I was able to move into the network manager where I was able to design the systems back. We had back systems and even the current system. The system that we're running today, Microsoft, that was a design that I put in place in 2002. And it's still running in place with very little tweaks. I was also selected for special assistant to presidents, and I worked on special projects, also worked in capital outlay. And most of the buildings here, from Donnelly Library to Tech Building to Laura Shields to Ilfield to Douglas, Rio Rancho Building, Hilton Science Building, the residential halls, I've been part of the renovation or part of it in either project management, government relations. I started the government relations in the late 1990s, and have been successful in that area. And I think the last total I looked is almost $400 million we brought to the campus. I was selected in 2013 as the Vice President of Finance, and I've been in that role ever since. And I've enjoyed the challenges and the opportunities the university has provided me. Every time one of those forks in the road came up, was I looking to stay or should I leave? Especially right when I was a Microsoft certified trainer, there was a lot of opportunities at that point, and we made a decision personally to stay here. Here's a couple of photos. Some of you will recognize that was 2005 in the upper right-hand corner. Sylvia and I were attending the employee recognition. In the middle of that, you see our chairman. That was Chairman Frank Markey, and our student regent were getting confirmed at that time. In the middle is Dr. Jim Fries. During one year, we were able to, for Halloween, we all dressed up as the Matrix, and it was a pretty good, a fun activity during that time frame. And we all had nicknames, Switch and High Tech and others. It was pretty comical. And in the right-hand side, that's second is a lady with like a little mic, is our campus operator, Margaret Garduno, and she was the operator at that time. Far left is Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales. He's a good friend and good colleague, and has been very helpful. And then some of you may recognize the high rise. I was going through various photos, and some of the new students that have been here don't recognize that there was a 9-story building right where the new residence hall is. And so to kind of take a picture of it, if you look in the, I don't know if you can see my mouse in this middle area, that was my room when I came to college, and nearly 40 years ago. Here's some other photos of the team that I've worked with for the university. And then you can always get President Minner. He's always good for a good photo, and that's when we started the rebuilding of the alumni. And I think Terry recognizes that we had an event at Albuquerque Country Club, and Sam decided to put that hat on, and I took a picture of him. On the bottom left is my son, Jonathan. He had become a teacher. He had also completed the alternative licensure program with Highlands University. He received a bachelor's of arts from the University of Mexico in English. And so he's an English teacher for Robertson High School, and also works in the film business as a script supervisor. In the middle of the picture is a good friend of mine, Ed Manzanares, and he's presented an award by Dr. Jim Fries for his efforts, and he's been a really good colleague. And then on the bottom right-hand side, Tedesita and Jim Fries, that was the first graduation that I attended, and I really enjoyed it. And we were trying to figure out how to get a picture of all three of us, and I saw the mirror, so we figured out here's a good way to get all three of us. In my personal life, when you looked at forks in the road, obviously married Sylvia, my wife, and our son Jonathan. You can see him, how he's grown today. The upper right-hand corner is our 25th anniversary, and we're still going. This is where we were ready to go. Sylvia had finished her master's degree. I was a Microsoft certified trainer. I had an opportunity to go to Seattle. Sylvia was being highly recruited to work for the government accounting organization, GAO, and also Social Security, and we were planning to leave at that point. And then that's when life hits you, and her mother got diagnosed in 1996 with pancreatic cancer. So instead of going after those opportunities, we made some choices, and I made my choices. My fork in the road was, one, I wanted to make sure that I had a wonderful relationship with my son. So traveling was something that was not going to work if I wanted to have a relationship. And two, you can't go back on being there for family. So we chose to stay with family and be there until the good Lord took them with them. Oops, I went too fast. So The death is upper right-hand corner. My mother-in-law, she passed away in 1996. On the her husband, Salomon Quintana, he passed 2 years later. Sylvia was also responsible for her two elderly aunts and uncles, and she passed away a year after her father, her brother passed away. And then Sylvia cared for her other elderly uncle who passed away in 2005. So there was a period there that we were taking care of family, and that was a choice that we made, and I was glad that we did. In the middle, during COVID, 2020, my father passed away, and if it's any way to go, that's the way to go. He had an aneurysm, and he had passed by 3 o'clock. He had it at 10 o'clock, and that was probably the fastest way to go. And then my spiritual leader, Father George Salazar, he has been just a rock. And whenever you have those times in your life when you're wondering what's the next stage in my life, how do I deal with all these different losses in our life? Sylvia was very young at that age, and same thing with our son. Those impacted the death of their grandparents. They were very dear to us. Another one is I started in 2012, and I told my wife Sylvia that I was going to mention this. I was reading an article, or I saw an advertisement in the Albuquerque Journal for a triathlon in Santa Fe. And I came out excited, and she was on the couch on her laptop doing work as usual. And I said, "Hey, let's do a triathlon." And she lifted up her head and she looked at me. "You're gonna die." And I said, "Oh, that's cold." But that ad just kept on bothering me. I finally signed up for it. I participated in, and I had the slowest bike. I carried too many things that I not needed to carry during the race. And my goal was to complete an Ironman, which is basically, for those of you that don't know, it is 5,000-meter swim with a 100-mile bike, and then then you have your last bit of a full marathon. It's somewhere right around 14 to 16 hours, and I had been training since 2012 to get up to that point. And then COVID hit, and I was actually going to participate in October of 2020. And unfortunately, COVID, like everything else, threw me a curveball, and so I wasn't able to do it. So I put on a little bit more weight, but over the time, at the same time, I heard about these Spartan races, and they are very similar. They have three different lengths. One is 5K with 20 obstacles, a 10K with 25 obstacles, or a half marathon at 30 obstacles. And triathlons were shut down during COVID, but the Spartans started to open up, and so I continued to do my Spartan races. I've done Spartan races. I've completed over, I think, 10 of those. And triathlons, I probably competed except for one in Santa Rosa in every triathlon in New Mexico. The one in the middle is the Cochiti Lake, which is a really long one. That was after 4.5 hours I had finished that one. And then the Los Alamos one is another challenging one. And then my lovely wife on the left-hand side, we participated in the Santa Fe triathlon. I would be remiss not to think about people that have influenced my wife. Obviously, my wife, my son, Father George. I guess Gary Myers, my high school teacher, probably had one of the initial influences when I was thinking what I was going to do after high school. I was pretty good art. I could do anything from clay, charcoal, ceramics, jewelry, stained glass, charcoal, water, oil paint. I could do just about almost every medium. And I asked him, I want to go on to be an artist, and he said he would take a while. And he told me, why don't you just go get your career and then do the art on the side. And I think that was one of the best advice that I had. And I still do some of the art on the side. And some of those that know me know that I do have that little bit of an art flair to myself. And so that's what helped me in my career. And then my best friend, Jamie Graham, always was there. He came to Highlands University. His parents were also recognized many years ago as alums. He played baseball here and he left. He works at Ricoh for nearly 25 years, and now he runs a division for Amazon. Oliver Jim Freeze, that gave me many opportunities to grow as a young leader and put me in this position. And then President Minner helped me grow into being a real executive in looking at the world and the academic and how to really build a campus and how to really work together as a team. Obviously, Laveo Sanchez, the pillar, making tough decisions and steadfast within how to make a decision when you hit that fork in the road. And then Region Chairman Frank Markey, he is just a remarkable man, gentle, but yet he is so effective. And then obviously my good friend, Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales, because his hard work and dedication to the state, the many miles that he travels just to meet people, excuse me, is just remarkable. There are times where I've talked to him, well, he'll start off in the morning and excuse me, in Deming and go up to Taos, have a meeting, come back to Vegas, and then be in Clovis, and then be in Las Cruces that same night. And he'll do that without any complaints. He's such a wonderful person. With that, I want to thank you, and I will stand for questions.
Any questions for Max? And if you have a question, feel free to either raise your hand or just speak right up. And I have a question for you, Max. I know you said that you don't look back once you've made a decision. And I think that's probably something that's hard for most of us to do, because it's natural to wonder, what if I took the other path in the road? But what do you think has been your best decision professionally, and what has been your best decision personally?
By far, personally, was probably convincing Sylvia to marry a guy like me, for sure. That's probably the best one, because she took a young man that's probably way too arrogant, too cocky, and probably knew how to tie one shoe but would trip on my left shoe, and help me grow and into the man that I am, helping me, push me when it was a tough decision. Yeah. So I'd say personally. Professionally, I'd say the best decision was probably taking on this VP of Finance. It was at a very difficult time. I was ready to leave the institution. I was ready to retire and go work in other places. And I really had to think about it at that point. Is this something? Is it something I really needed to do? And I'm glad I did, because the university has given me so much and has given so many other people's opportunities. We were able to make some changes that were for the betterment for the institution. And so I think that was probably the best decision that I made. And staying here for the 8-9 years is, I think, in looking back at the institution, one of the hard parts, and Terry, you know this, is the pay for people, and how for many years we struggled. But to have people make a living wage, and do the things and help people, and that was good. It took some work, but that was a goal that I'm really glad that we were able to achieve. So thank you for that question.
Sure. Other questions from folks?
Actually, I just have a quick comment from halfway around the world.
Hey, Sean.
Oh, it's so good to see you, Sean. You look so wonderful.
Yeah, no,
Awesome.
actually, I wanted to congratulate you, Max, on your recognition. And you and I worked together for years, and I really enjoyed your presentation and getting to know you a little bit better.
Thank you, Sean. You look great. How's Corey? I thought I saw something peering in the corner, so I don't know if that was Corey.
I don't think so, but yeah, we're doing great. We haven't attended a meeting in 6 months, so that's why I'm looking good. That's good seeing you.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know Benito has a question about how did I train for Spartans? I know he's eager. He wants to do one with me.
Honestly, Max, I would have had the same reaction as Sylvia. Don't die.
What I want to know, Max, is where you find the time to train for Spartan.
Yeah.
Well, that's a very good question. And people always ask me, how are you able to study for your Microsoft exams? How are you able to study for your college? And I found that between 11 and 1, most people are asleep, and that's a good time for me. And then to exercise, I found that between 5 and 7 o'clock, you could probably exercise and people won't bother you that much. So I typically, within those 2 time frames, do my those extra little bit of things that I like to try to do. So like one of the things is like a Spartan race. I'll pick a race and I'll set it out far enough, maybe 6-8 weeks, and then say, okay, now we really got to start training for this. And okay, no more sodas. Okay, no more cheeseburgers. I got to eat healthier and run a little bit more. But that's what kind of helps me. And I think I've shared this with you, is my 3 rules in competing at this age of my life. Maybe much younger, I probably wouldn't have had the same rules. But I know I'm not going to be on a platform trying to get some kind of reward. I just don't have the time or the effort to want to train that hard to compete. But my 3 rules are, 1, finish what I start. So like if I have a run in the morning, I'll say I'm going to run maybe 3 miles, and I'll do maybe 25 push-ups and maybe 25 sit-ups or something like that. And I'll set that goal before I start. Sometimes when you're running, you don't feel that good, especially as I'm getting older. You don't feel, and you're like, what was I thinking? Now, I never said I have to complete it. I said my goal was 3 miles. Sometimes it's ugly 3 miles, but I don't stop, and I remind myself, you set the goal before you started, so finish it, okay? If you don't like it, then tomorrow run 2, or I'll do less. But I always train myself to start and finish. The second rule is don't get hurt. Nothing's worse than when you're training or you're doing something and you get hurt, because you take what is an experience that you want for yourself, and now you've made it a painful experience. And I believe that I've been in races, and yeah, I played sports, and there's some people that run by me. And when I first started, it was really competitive because I wanted to go catch them and say, oh, that I'm not going to let Benito beat me. But I learned, I said, no, Benito worked harder than me. Good for you. And I remember at this triathlon in Socorro, I got waxed on the run by this 85-year-old. He just spanked me. I was like, dude, how did you do it? And he just said, hey, I just took off and I didn't look back. But it was those kinds of things that make me. And then the last part of it is 3, have fun. If you have those 3, you can do a lot of these races, and you can do it. And I do it for my health. I do it to help me work out some of the tough problems that we have at the institution. But so if anyone ever wants to join me, it's always open. I'll be happy to tell you where we sign up. And I promise your first Spartan race will be a lot of fun. Any other questions?
Well, I just want to make a comment. I do have to say that, I agree with a lot of what you said there. I have a lot of those same philosophies in terms of, just physical activity. But a lot of those same philosophies can transfer over to the workplace. And I think that's always a good mentality to have in terms of setting a goal, working towards that goal, and staying on that goal for the long haul. Sometimes I think at times, it's human nature to maybe give up before we complete what we set out to do.
Well said. One of the things that I always tell my staff is that work the problem. Don't work all the other stuff that comes with it. Is what are we trying to solve? Let's work the problem, and you'd be surprised how many times the emotions and everything else that goes, the blame and shame, and why did this, or like Terry, you said, looking in the past, we could have done this one. That's not going to help. We're already done. I always tell them, it's like tears in the Rio Grande. Are you ever going to be able to capture them? They're gone. You know what I mean? There's no reason to worry about it. And I've always lived my life. Once you start the path and you just do it, you know. Now there'll always be other forks that'll come up maybe shortly after that, as I've learned at Highlands University that there's always another fork, but I've always looked forward to it. Any other questions?
Well, I just want to thank you, Max, and thank our sign language interpreters for helping us
Yes.
out during this session. Carol Linder as well, who helped arrange for the interpreting service. And we really appreciate your time and your presentation.
Thank you, and a good shout out to my good colleague Mike Petronis, and Gil Gallegos has beat me several times on the run, so I've seen the back of his sneakers quite a bit. So thanks, Gil, for telling him how slow I am.
It's that you finish, right? It's not how
Yeah,
fast.
exactly. And my good military colleague Mike Petronis, you saw my airborne pictures. I want to see some of your pictures, Mike.
There you go.
I don't know. I don't know if you do or not. Maybe.
Well, it's an idea for our next year's HU talks, right?
Yes.
Thanks everyone for attending, and we hope to see you at another HU talk.
Yeah. Take care. Bye-bye.